morning. My name is Reverend Darrell Gray. I serve in different capacities, but today I am one of the co-chairs for the Civic Engagement Committee for the Baptist Ministers Union of St. Louis and vicinity. There are several clergy, labor leaders, community leaders here with us today. First of all, the reason that we came down today is to deliver a letter to the President of the Board of Aldermen, President Lewis Reed. I'd like to read some of the letter, and then I'd like to make some statements, and then call upon members of our group to make statements as well. I'd start off by saying we went to meet President Reed, but he was unavailable. We've asked on several occasions over the last several days since the discussion of Board Bill 2 to meet with President Reed so that we could ascertain why he chose to bring Board Bill 2 up at this juncture of the discussion centered around $500 million. Wanted to understand the process, wanted to understand his rationale, and also to support the mayor's budget proposed of almost $80 million. Just some of the letter that we submitted or handed to Mayor Reed's secretary. We, the undersigned faith and community leaders, are urging you to release the people's funds. We are concerned that there seems to be unprecedented delays and opposition in improving the detailed proposal by Mayor Tashara Jones for the use of the initial $80 million of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. We recognize that Mayor Jones had a stimulus advisory board. Many of us, including myself, had an opportunity to speak to the HUD's committee. And we said to the mayor that it was unfortunate that more clergy were not able to weigh in, but we were confident in the response from the mayor's office and various aldermen that moving forward, that members of the clergy would have an opportunity to weigh in on how the money was spent. The idea of a stimulus package should not be new. President Joe Biden rolled out financial aid to families across the United States to help them to put food on the table during COVID-19. We believe that we can do the same thing here in St. Louis. My comment is brief. I'm a pastor. I live primarily by scripture, where it says, when you have done it unto the least of these, you have done it unto me, which simply means to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to shelter the homeless. $500 to me is a lot of money, and I work every day. It's not a little bit of money to people who are out here trying to make ends meet, to try to figure out how to pay for basic needs, for essential needs. $500 is important. I respect the fact that President Reed has the legislative process that he has to follow. I submit personally that it took too long to come to this conclusion, that we knew we had $500 million 2 months ago. And the legislative body should have began then to figure out what to do with $500 million. Because 2 months ago, there was poverty in our communities. Not just the black community, but black and brown and white. There's poverty in this city. There are people who are trying to figure out how to pay their light bills in this city. There are people who are trying to decide whether to buy prescription drugs or put food on their table or pay the light bill or to pay the phone bill today, right now, just like it was 2 months ago. And so, yes, I'm concerned about $500 going to people in need right now. I'm concerned that of the petty political games that are being played. And as a coalition, as unorganized as we may seem, Dr. Bowie, as a coalition, a community of conscience, we don't want anybody playing political games with public money, with the public trust. And so we're going to ask several people to come and speak on behalf of their organizations. And we'll begin with Reverend Dr. Lyndon Bowie, Bowie, who is president of the Missionary Baptist State Convention, representing 250,000 people in Missouri, and president of the Missouri Faith Leadership Council. Dr. Bowie.
I want to thank you all for coming. I am Reverend Lyndon Bowie, Lindenbowie. We originally came together as a coalition of faith and community leaders because we were watching the political gamesmanship that has been a bane to the city's progress for too many years. We were watching as different factions of our elected officials were beginning to partner up and to do the things that we've seen them do for so long, flex their political muscle, and doing all of these things at the expense of the citizens of St. Louis. And so we came together in order to say to our elected officials, enough is enough. That we're not really concerned about who gets a political check mark or who gets a political red ribbon or a blue ribbon out of this. What we really want to see is St. Louis healed, healthy, and whole. And business as usual can no longer go on. And so we are forming this loose coalition of community and faith leaders who will, from this time forward, insert ourselves into the political process. That we believe that there ought to be an agenda for St. Louis, and we want to be a part of that agenda. We want to make sure that St. Louis does right by its citizens, all of its citizens, and not just a select few. And so we say to our mayor, we say to Louis Reed, we say to all of our elected officials, enough is enough. That there's time for us to come together as a city and do what's best for our city. We're watching our young people die on the streets. We're watching COVID-19 numbers start to go up again. We're watching the homeless population being moved from one spot to the other. Everywhere they go, they're not welcome. We're watching too much of this going on in our city, and nobody seems to be about solutions, but everybody wants to talk about what they cannot do and how this can't happen. And so we're coming together to start talking about what can we do and how can we make St. Louis a better place. How can we attract young professionals to our city? How can we attract more jobs to our city? How can we come together and build the kind of a city that we can be proud of? We can't do it if we continue to have all this political wrangling, and so we're saying enough is enough. For instance, is the fact that when we first started this, the mayor's budget of $80+ million was being held up in HUD. It was not until President Reed amended that and added to that budget that it went through in flying colors. And so that now it looks to us like political gamesmanship. Once again, President Reed wants the credit and not to give it to Shara. Enough of that. We really don't care who gets the credit. We just want St. Louis better. We want St. Louis healed. If $5 million is going to be held up because somebody does not understand how important it is to put food on the tables of the poorest of the poor, black, white, brown, it doesn't really matter, then we are in trouble. 10,000 families are not going to be able to have the kind of help that they need. The federal government offered assistance, and here locally we can't even get together to make it happen. We're hearing what cannot happen. Nobody is saying what we can do. And so we're here to start this dialogue with our political leaders, and we're not going away. This is just the beginning. They can expect to see us more often than not whenever we sense that people are about their own personal agendas and not the agenda of St. Louis. St. Louis ought to have an agenda, and we want to be at the table to help forge the agenda that's going to move this city forward. And so we're putting all of our elected officials on notice. Doesn't matter who your supporters are. St. Louis put you in office, and St. Louis is expecting for you to do what's right for this city. If you don't, then you're going to hear from leaders like the ones that are standing with us today. There are many more who just could not be here, but we will be back and we will have something to say about what's going on. And if our politicians continue or persist or insist on doing politics as usual, we also know how to deal with those individuals. So we're putting everybody on notice. We're putting the news on notice. We're putting our politicians on notice. We're putting St. Louis on notice that we will no longer stand by and watch this infighting go on when St. Louis is suffering. We need this city to move forward, and it can't move forward unless all of us move forward. So while holding $5 million back from the poorest of those among us seems to be like a smart political move, it's not. It's only hurting the least of these, and we stand for the least of these. And we say to those who are responsible to let that money go so that they can be fed, so that they can have their lights put back on, so that they can have water in their homes, so that they don't have to worry about being evicted. We want these funds released so that the people of St. Louis, the voters, the citizens of this city, can move forward as well. I want to thank you again for your presence.
Want to introduce the senior pastor of the Lively Stone Church of God, Bishop Lee Scott.
Good afternoon. I'm Bishop Lee Scott. That's Leescott. We are here, as you have heard from my colleagues, not to take a political side, but to stand for the people. For so long, we have heard as clergy the rhetoric that where are the clergy? Who is standing for the people? Well, we're here to say that we're here, and we're going to be here. We're going to keep coming back. And I want to say this. Right now, facing our city, we know there's over 3,000 petitions in the courts that's about to evict people out of their homes. If there's money on the table to help people not to get evicted, why don't we give it to them? Why do we come up with an alternative plan, and why do we do something different? Let's help the people. Let's stop people are hurting. Yes, we're coming out of the pandemic, and we thank God for that. But coming out don't mean you're out. It means you're coming out. There has to be support as we walk out and restabilize ourselves. And so we need President Reed, we need Mayor Jones to stand up with the people. And listen, I'm here to say thank you to President Reed to get the bill moved out of HUD last night. But we should not have to be fighting over how we're going to help people. Let's help people. We don't need plans. We don't want plans that talks about enlarging homeless camps. We want to keep people in their homes. We want them to have money to help them to take care of these families. We got too many single family parents that need help. People that don't have insurance that need help. We're not here to play the political game. We're here saying, let's help the people. We already got the money. Listen, we're not even asking for the money. We already got the money, over $500 million. We got it. We're saying now, let's help the people. And let's not get caught up in bureaucracy. Let's not get caught up in all this stuff. And let me just remind the people, and I want to give you this. Don't look at us and say, well, they're a small group. I want to remind you of a great story that we read about. When it came time to talk and fight against a giant, I'm told in history there was only one man that went to deal with the giant while the army sat in the back. I just came to tell you that we're the giants. We got an army behind us. Do not take us for granted. We will be in your communities. We will say we are here to help the people as God gives us help. Thank you for your time.
I want to call the representative from the Organization of Black Struggles, and as she comes, as Bishop Scott said, the letter that we submitted had over 50 organizations that signed this letter. So as we speak here, we're just a representation of that group. There were over 50 organizations, faith communities, community organizations, labor organizations that signed that letter. So we're coming just as representatives of a much larger group.
My name is Lisa Legrone. I'm with the Organization for Black Struggle. I am the coordinator for Project Haki, anti-violence program. I'm on the streets every day, and I'm talking to the citizens every day, and not only in the 22nd Ward. These people really need money. I talked to some older people who are saying that they don't even have money to pay for their medicine. They're calling our office asking us for help for electric bills, gas. If we have the money, we need to release it. This business of politicians fighting against each other needs to stop.
That's right.
We need help in St. Louis.
Yeah.
We also need help in the street for this violence. And if you got people that's out here hungry, I'm just gonna keep it real with you. If you got people that's out here hungry, they gonna do things that's gonna make them go out there and get what they need. So I'm just asking Alderman Reed if he could please just have some. We didn't ask you for no sympathy. We just asking for a little empathy. Thank you.
The last name is spelled. We have representatives from organized labor. We'll ask them to come now.
Yes, my name is Jay Ozir. I'm the president of the St. Louis chapter of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, and we stand here in support of direct relief to those in need. Part of the reason why the city of St. Louis was allocated more money than the county was because of the poverty in the city. So it and as been outlined by speakers before me, the real need. People are suffering and they need direct help, direct intervention, and it is allowed under the federal rules that have been set up for the pandemic that we have from this coronavirus. So we were suffering before then, and this has brought even more suffering. And again, release the funds, direct the relief to help those who are in need. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ria Willis and I'm speaking as an educator. I'm speaking based off, I'm standing here for my students. Do you understand when they don't have electricity in the house, when they don't have AC in the house, when they don't have food in the house because of lack of monies, that affects them in the classroom. We need these monies for our babies. You don't know the stories that as educators we have to listen to every day because our kids come and tell us they have no lights to do their homework because there's no monies to be to pay for the electric. We have to be here for our people. We have to be here for these children. Put yourself in their situations. What if this was your grandchild? What if this was your daughter who had children who happened to be a single parent for whatever reason? But they need these monies to put food on the table. They need the monies to keep their electricity and their utilities on. Putting shoes on the feet of these children. Making sure they have what school supplies when they go back to school. They need money for this. So don't take away what is needed for our children in this community. So I stand here for my students that I serve on an everyday basis in the summer as well in the school year. Stop fighting and playing with our students' lives in politics. Stop playing with the families' lives doing politics. If you want to play politics, let it be productive politics. That means help the people. Help the people. It's all about people. It ain't about these politics. We need to stop playing it and coming together. President Reed, Mayor, we need you all to come together, sitting at this table And you need to have the voice of the educators at that table as well when you make these decisions. Thank you.
We have one more person that is going to speak to us, but before that person comes, we want to acknowledge Rev Timothy Nelson. We want to acknowledge senior pastor of the Greater Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Nathaniel Griffin, one of the senior pastors in our community. We're going to ask Reverend Philip Duvall if he will come.
To echo and to summarize, is simplicity for me with some key words. One is, it's a Rescue Act money that is federal dollars. And the key word is rescue. So when I'm in need and I need to be rescued, there ought to be a fierce urgency of now. The money is here. Whose money? The taxpayers' money. This is our investment, those of us who work, who have put in the money for urgency of now with rescue. We want to thank the mayor for her leadership as to what she has already put forth. But then it starts to cause me some concern. There were words used by our late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who talked about the words, the fierce urgency of now. Standstillism, do-nothingism, protectionism, whatever ism you want to call it, we aren't getting movement. For people who are hurting, people who are hungry, people, it's hot right now. How do you run the fans? How do you get an air condition? These monies are needed now.
Right now.
The fierce urgency of now and our message now, quit playing the politics, the gamemanship, feed the people, help the people, serve the people now.
Finally, I just want to share a couple of things. Mayor Jones, her bill was very succinct, it was very direct, and it came about as a result of public consultation. People sharing with the advisory committee as to what the priorities in the community are because they talk to people in the community. We understood that President Reed needed an opportunity to speak to older people who we trust also speak to people in the community in order to increase this particular bill. We understand that. Many have said we understand the legislative process. President Reed said that he was homeless once. And he said that $500 is not enough. I was homeless once. 16 years old, 17 years old. Sleeping in parked cars. Trying to make it the best way that I could. I don't understand what was different with my homelessness and his homelessness. I'm trying to understand. He said he's scratching his head. I'm scratching my head trying to understand anybody who can say that they have experienced homelessness, that they've experienced hunger, and they can't understand the urgency of putting $500 in somebody's pocket. If an unhoused person, if they ask you for a quarter, if they ask you for $1, the look on their face, if they get $1. So I don't understand that. And so right now, I'm not sure if we're talking to President Reed as much as we're talking to 28 older people right now. Because right now, the older people have it in their power to make the difference. The older people right now can put that $5 million back in the budget. So not only are we calling upon President Reed to do the right thing, we're calling upon 28 older people who will preside tomorrow, who will talk and debate and deliberate and decide about the future of St. Louis, about the future of the least of these. And when I say the future, you heard what the teacher said. This is real, y'all. You got a child sitting at home right now, they didn't eat this morning. You got a child right now sitting at home, mama doesn't know how to pay the light bill, how she's gonna pay the rent. Mama's got to figure out what medicine she's gonna buy. And her son or her daughter, they're watching mama. They're listening to mama pray. They're listening to mama cry. Lord, what am I gonna do? So what does that child do? 14 years old, 13 years old, 15 years old. I got to take matters into my own hands now. See, that's what's real. So as Sis said, we're not out here to play games. Dr. Bowie said it. We're going to continue to show up. And we're going to continue to shake the tree to make sure that people who need it the most get it first. And so that's what we're talking about today, and that's why we're here. We're grateful for the budget that the mayor proposed. We're grateful for the direct action that she took. We're grateful for the initiative that she took, and now it's up to the alder people. 28. And we're going to be talking to all of them. We're going to be making some calls tonight to alder people saying support the budget, but include the $5 million.